we really feel that you're able to use the NJCTL presentations right off the website to do live instruction with, or have recorded that or used our recordings that are already done for the students to get the direct instruction. And then what we want to talk about today is how do you use the formative assessment questions that we already have written, and how do you incorporate that into either a live lesson, or even Audra's going to show us some ways with Google Classroom. So I'm going to start with talking about Socrative, then Maria is going to talk about Kahoot for a few minutes, Audra's going to talk about Google Forms, and then Susan will end with Zoom as well. So just some various options out there for you to be able to use. So for what I want to show you, I'm going to share my screen. And here, again, our website. So you can go right to our website, to our classroom teaching materials. We have all of K-12 mathematics up to AP Calculus, for science, kindergarten up through APs. We have a few computer science courses, AP computer science courses we've been working on. So I'm going to use as a demonstration from algebra-based physics, from kinematics, the first unit, and then the kinematics presentation. So the first one is our Smart Notebook presentation. If you don't have Smart Notebook, you can always download the PDF. So you can also even take that PDF and get those slides directly to your students. So I have the Smart Notebook file downloaded. So basically, if I were using this with my students remotely right now, I'd be able to take the link that's right here to the video that's already recorded for this direct instruction section. So I could have the students watch that beforehand, and that would cover and go through all of these, the direct instruction here in the beginning. So then once I get to a question, so it's going to be black and numbered. So what we're thinking you would be able to do is to use Socrative.com. So Socrative.com is a free service, okay? And what you would be able to do is, if you don't have an account, you can make a free account. They do have a paid version, but you do not need the paid version for what we're going to demonstrate today. And some of you may already have been using Socrative in your classroom. Well, you can use it remotely with your students as well, the same way. Or if you were used to using, turning clickers or anything like that, this is very similar. So I would tell my students to go to Socrative.com, and then they go to student login. All right, so that's the student side. And you're all going to be my students and try this out right now too, so you see how we would be able to do this. So I'm logged into myself. This is my teacher account, and my room name is PMI. So what I need all of you to do right now is, if you can go to Socrative.com, we'll type that in the chat for you. So
also, if you want to use your phone, Socrative does have a teacher and a student app on both the Apple and Android markets. So like, I'm using my iPhone and I just press the Socrative student app. So that's how I'm getting in.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. You could tell your students they could use, their phone to log into Socrative, and then they could be watching your instruction, your video, or your screen sharing that you're doing on their computer. Otherwise, they would have to have two windows open. So if everyone wants to go to Socrative.com, and then you go to student login, and then all you have to do is put my room name. So my room name is PMI. So if you go ahead and put that in, then you'll be able to see that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just do this in incognito as well, so that I can demonstrate both ways for you. So I tell my students either log in or go that way. So then what I'm doing, now I have two monitors connected, so I'm able to have this on one monitor. Like, I would have this off to the side and not be showing it to the students. And because what I want the students to see right now is this. I would be projecting the question to them, okay? So the students are seeing the question, and then me on my other screen, I'm going to pick quick question multiple choice. So once I pick quick question multiple choice, oh, it knocked me out, sorry, because I hit student. Once I hit quick question multiple choice, I can see I have 7 of you logged in, but then I hit multiple choice here. Now all of you on your devices, it should have popped up to look like this. So, but again, what I want to be displaying to the students is the question, okay? So if you logged in for me, just pick anything. We're not worried what the answer is right now, just to demonstrate and submit it. All right, so that's what yours should look like from the student side of things. So from the teacher side of things, I would be watching this on my other screen, okay? So if I have a second screen, I would be watching this. Or if I don't have a second monitor connected, then I would have this on my phone or an iPad, something like that, like Audra discussed, because I can't have both of these open for the students. So
or
once
you could also do an incognito window too, if you wanted, or a different window to view the results. It depends on how you want to play it.
So then I would be able to see that all 8 of my 8 students have answered. And, you know, let's say I do have this, I just drug it over onto my second screen. So I've watched it, and then once I've seen it, now I can just pull this over a little bit here and see what percentage of my students have said. So now, just like when we were in the classroom, I'm going to have the debate about these questions. You know, I'm going to say, okay, good. Nobody said A, and nobody said they need help, but we've got a mixture of these 3. So now I would have that debate with my students as I went along. Once I was done with that question, we would decide what the correct answer is. Then we could confirm, okay, D, all right, we were right. And then I would go on to the next question. So here's the good thing. I'm not taking this question and putting it into Socrative. You don't need to worry about typing it or copying and pasting or anything, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to just have it here I'm asking a blank question. So when I go back, I always see another question. I'm just doing these quick questions. So if I go back to that main launch, I'm doing these down here. Multiple choice, true, false, or short answer. All right. So if you do have some questions that are not multiple choice, you could do the short answer if you want. But once I go to the next question, I could say hit multiple choice to start it again. So now all of you should see it pop up on your device, and it would look like this one here. All right, so again, I have my answer choices that I can go ahead and put in. I don't need to see the question on this screen because as a teacher, I'm displaying this. All right, or, you know, the students have the PDF of it in their Google Classroom and they have it open. So again, once I was done, we've got 3 people in, see how it tells me. I don't know who said what, but I know how many people have answered or not. All right. So you can see the downside to having this open right now is that all the students would be seeing it as a live feed. So that was why my suggestion of having a second screen or even doing it on your phone would work out nicely with that. So again, now I see B and C. I could cross answers out and we would debate it and have our discussion. So it would be just like we were in the classroom and be able to do it that way. All right, and then once I'm done, I can say finish, and you know, it takes me back to my main launch pad. So I can, nothing to do to prepare on your part except initially making your account from there for Socrative. So again, it was Socrative, SOCRATIV.com. So take a look and try that out. And I think that the students really will be okay with that, with managing having open the window that you're displaying, plus then even if they're just doing it on their same device, having the other screen open where they put the answer in. So they would just flip back and forth between the 2 tabs, or, you know, choose to do it on their own device. All right, so Maria, you were going to go next and talk about Kahoot a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely. Kahoot works similar to Socrative. I'm going to share my screen. You guys can see. You can set up, again, it's a free teacher account that you can set up. There are paid versions, but for what we're going to be doing today, you can work off of the free version. They're very quick quizzes that you can create. I've already created one, so we can test it out, and I'm going to use computer science questions. So I'm actually pulling from the computer science principles algorithms presentation, which was brand new. I wanted to use something that had pictures, because I wanted to show the capabilities of Kahoot with images. So first thing is, from the teacher standpoint, the nice thing with Kahoot is you can do one-on-one, or you can create team mode. So even from home, when your students are playing, they can actually have teams set up. We're going to do the classic mode. It's going to pop up with a code, and just like Socrative, you could either have the, hold on one second. Just like Socrative, you can have the app on your phone, and I think Audra's about to show us the app.
Yep.
And all you have to do is type, you don't even need to create an account, you can just type in your code. Or you can go to kahoot.it and type in the code immediately. As your students are logging in, you will see their logins down here. So that if at any time you see a login that you're not liking, you can cross it out and make the kid, boot them off and make them log back in with an appropriate title. I'll give you guys a minute to. The nice thing
it generated it for me. I'm Cheerful Bunny.
Yeah, I like to do the auto generation too.
I'm the honest crane. So yeah, it auto generated.
Yeah, and this is where like your comfortability as a teacher is completely open. It's, you can make students log in as their own names. You can have them log in whatever they want. If you want it completely anonymous, the auto generator works really well. How many people do we? 12. Okay. So just like with the other, with Melissa's presentation, you could be asking students to do this login as you're starting your presentation and doing formal instruction. And that way, when your first formative assessment question comes up, you don't have to be waiting. Is anybody else gonna log in? Because I can just start. Okay. Let's just. If you have, let me just, you know what? Take a snapshot of the code so we have it. If anybody needs it again, we can get in to the game at any time. So first question will pop up for students, and hold on. It has a time frame, but this question is coming from your presentation. Why is this music playing again? I thought I turned it off.
We don't hear it.
Yeah, we're not hearing it.
You don't? Cool. Okay. So you can wait. Everyone can answer the questions. Then if anybody could just put it, everybody can put in whatever they want. Okay. So after you're done, it will pop up with a tally of how many scored answered each answer choice. And from there, you can generate discussion as to which one's right, which one's wrong. A is the right one. So yeah. The other thing that I wanted, the next type of question is, and I'm not going to make you guys answer it. The next type of question is also a question where your answer choices are pictures as well. So Kahoot will also accept images as answer choices. Now, this requires, it doesn't require, I'm sorry. One of the options for Kahoot is taking the questions and copying and pasting them into the Kahoot game. You can do this, and that way it allows you to also assign the Kahoot questions to maybe a student who wasn't in the Zoom call during the formal instruction and was able to participate along with other students. Or you can do it similar to Socrative, where you're not required to type in the question. You could just see presentation and just have the answer choices A, B, C, D. And that way you can display the image of the question and students can answer it the same way by looking at their phone and the picture is going to be displayed. What's nice about this is you can create a question, like an empty question like this, by just hitting duplicate in Kahoot, and then it allows you to keep a tally of each of your questions. So you know the overall, the polls for each question, and you can refer back to them later on if you would like. That's Kahoot.
Thank you, Maria. That was very helpful. So Audra's going to take the reins. So I know from a lot of the teachers we've been talking to, pretty much everyone is using Google Classroom. So you should be very familiar with this. So Audra came up with some ideas of how you could use Google Classroom, and I think she's using an Algebra 1 example.
So basically what I did in Google Classroom was I explored 2 different ways that you could give the students the questions. You could either do it through the classwork piece as a quiz, which is a Google form. And in order to see the results of these pollings, you would click into it. Or I'm sorry, this brings up what the question was. To see the results of the Google form, you actually have to go in and click on the results there and click responses. So it's a couple of extra clicks. Here's what I had with this test class. And the other way that I did it was with questions. Now these questions are interesting because whenever you click on it, you see the results right here in real time. And it's a lot less clicks to get from one place to the other. And similarly, the students, when they view it, they just click on the question, they see it, they answer it, and they submit. So the option for less clicks definitely goes with the create question option. The other one was the quiz assignment, which was the Google form. And I also gave these 2 today. The first one was a sample answer. So the people that were in my classroom, if you guys could go in and submit your answers, that would be great. What I did was I took the slides, this was from 4th grade math actually, for this sample, was I opened the presentation, Control-C is copy, and then I brought it back and I created the assignment. So add question, and I pasted it here. This is a numerical answer, so they can submit it as a short answer. And you could just say whatever the presentation is. This one's about multiplication, formative assessment question 1. And then you can either prepare this ahead of time or you can do it in real time. If you're doing it in real time, you would say ask. If you're doing it ahead of time, you can actually schedule it. So if you meet with your classes on a certain day and time, you can set it up to go the day you meet and whatever time your class meets, and you can schedule it to go out there. Similarly with a multiple choice question, like I said, you can create a question, and then the sample multiple choice that I had was here. You can highlight all the text by doing Control-A, and then you can copy it by right-clicking and doing copy or using the keyboard shortcut Control-C. If you're using a Mac, instead of Control C or Control A, it's Command A or Command C. So copy, and then I can go in here. It goes in the instructions, but this time it's multiple choice. This is multiplication, FA question number 2. So it was 811, 891, or 881. Oh. And then once you're done, you can schedule when you want to have it to go out or ask it that day. So I can schedule it. If you want the questions to appear in a sequential order on your stream, set them off by a couple of minutes. So I'll do this one as 102. So then that way it'll appear to the students in the proper order. So that's how you can question in Google Classroom, and you can easily switch back and forth from here. And then when the students are answering the question, you can go back and forth. Or you can, if you're doing a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet, you can assign your screen share to be specifically for the notebook file or the presentation that you're using. And then you can switch back and forth and the kids won't see what you're switching back and forth to. Or you could use separate monitors, or you could open Google Classroom on your phone, as we showed with other apps. So those are ways that you can integrate the create question option in Google Classroom. And again, it'll appear to your students on their stream when they get submitted there. And that's how you can implement formative assessment questions in Google Classroom.
Great. So I'm going to share the last idea that we came up with, and that is using Zoom. The upside to the Zoom option is that you're able to use it like integrated right within your presentation if you're using Zoom as your like to meet with your students. The downside is that you have to have a paid account for Zoom. So I'm going to show you, I had to do some of this on a PowerPoint because you can't, when I start sharing my screen, you can't actually see my presentation mode. So I'll have to switch to PowerPoint to show you some screenshots. But the very first thing you do is you go into your Zoom account and you have to be sure to activate polling. And you do that by going to your settings. And it's within the in-meeting basic. So if you go here, then you can scroll down and you'll see polling, and you just turn that toggle to on. And then once you do that, let's see. Yeah, this option won't work for everybody. Somebody just said that their school is not wanting to use Zoom and they're using Microsoft Teams. So yeah, the downfall to this is that you do have to be using Zoom and you do have to have a paid account. But once you turn on that polling, you have to schedule a meeting because you've got to create well, pretty much immediately you're going to see polling at the bottom. You can see right here, polling at the bottom when you open your Zoom window. But until you create a question, you won't actually be able to poll. So to go in to create a question, you have to have a meeting. And you go into that meeting, and down at the bottom, you can see an option to add a question. And I actually have one started already, but you may see a note that you don't have any questions and that you have to create a poll. So you just go here to add. And I called this multiple choice question. I'm using the same option that Melissa used, and that's to not put in specific questions. I'm just going to make a generic question that I can use multiple times. So what I want to do, I'm going to change it to multiple choice, and I'm going to tell my students to choose one answer. And that way, every time I pull up the question, it's just going to say choose one answer. And since my answer choices are A through E, multiple choice, I'm just going to say A, B, C, D, and E. That way, those are the options. And I'll save that. And now I have some polling questions to use in my Zoom meeting. And I'll delete this one because I don't actually need it. Okay, so here's the part that you won't be able to see. Once you start your meeting, you're going to select polling at the bottom, and you can see right here, it looks like a little graph, and it says polling. When you have your presentation up, what's nice is you can be sharing your screen, and when you choose launch poll, you're going to have this pop up right in front of your student's screen. So we'll go ahead and I'll pull up a presentation, and I will go to a formative assessment question here. And I'm actually going to start this poll. Got to get rid of my group chat. Okay. So you should see that the polling question has popped up. What's nice is you can move this around. So if it pops up, it is popping up for me in the middle of the screen. So you can kind of pull it off to the side. But go ahead and answer your question. I have 2 people who have given a choice. You don't have to, you can just kind of choose any answer.
Also, when that window pops up for you, you could move it around to move it out of the way of the question.
Yep.
So you could tell your students that, you know, even though this downside, like Susan says, is that it's paid, but they don't have to do anything else because it opens right there.
Yep, it's integrated. So we'll give it just another second, a couple of seconds. And then what I'm going to do is, oh, where did my PowerPoint go? Oh, here it is. Okay. What you see on the screen is this end poll. And once you click end poll, it's going to give you the option to either, I should have made this bigger, sorry about that. It'll give you the option to either share your results or relaunch the poll. So I'm going to end the poll and then I'm going to share results. And you can now see what the results of this poll were. And now we can go.
That popped right up on my screen. Yeah, so okay,
that's great. Good. So now we can see that it was a pretty even breakdown and we could have some conversation. It really was, exactly. 25% chose each of A, B, C, and D. Luckily, no one said they needed help, but now we can have some conversation around which is the correct answer. And if I want, I can, after we've had some conversation, I can relaunch that poll and I can ask students to vote again. Now that we've had some conversation, we were split evenly, A, B, C, and D. Maybe after some conversation, they'll change their answers and then I can re-poll on the same question. Give it a couple more minutes or a couple more seconds. And then again, I end that poll and I can share my results. Now, the other option when that pops up is that I can relaunch this poll. So when I click relaunch, it basically says relaunching will clear out your existing polling results. Do you want to continue? So if you're the kind of person who wants to have, you know, like wants to continue to, or wants a record of how kids answered, this isn't going to give that to you unless you create different questions. But for me, that's not really a major downfall because I don't necessarily think I'll be analyzing my students' answer choices. So yeah, that's just another one of the options for doing polling, and it's nice because it's integrated right within the Zoom and it pops up right on your student's screen. This process takes a long time. How long is your class? Well, I mean, the process, we went through the process of both showing you how to set things up and how to launch the polls and everything. So this really doesn't take any longer. Like we could go through 4 or 5 questions fairly quickly as long as we had everything set up in advance. I would recommend setting up those blank questions in advance so that when your students get on, you're already set and ready to go. It took longer because we wanted to walk you guys through the process of how to set those up. I would not recommend setting them up while your students are online with you.
You know, so again, the whole idea, I mean, everyone is so different in their schedule and what their school is asking them to do and everything. But the idea that we have is that have the students watch the video or go through the slides on their own or watch a video that you recorded or do the video in the Moodle 2 self-study courses that we opened up for free. Mm-hmm. And then when you have time with them online, you want to spend that time going over these formative assessment questions. So because they're already all online, you know they can, it's just opening another window and doing something else, you know, to add Socrative, Kahoot, or, you know, or Google Classroom. Mm-hmm. You know, if you have a paid Zoom subscription or you felt like paying it for yourself for the month, if you're allowed to use Zoom, you know, it's easier because everything's integrated right in there. But, you know, what a great way to keep students engaged. You know, we can't ask them to raise their hand or show something, you know, it's too hard. You know, they could type in the chat, but then at least this way they're still getting that anonymous way to answer. You're able to display the results just like you would have done in your classroom, and hopefully able to have that discussion and give the students that interaction that they're missing right now.
Yeah.
So.
And so I know that people are using kind of different methods for instruction. Some are having their students get on a Zoom session or a Google Hangouts or whatever. What was the other one? Microsoft Teams. Getting on all at one time for maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 15 minutes at a time. And so in that situation, you can use something like the Zoom polling or Socrative because you're right there on the spot with them. Somebody said that they're posting lessons and their students are watching it at different times. In that situation, something like Google Classroom or Kahoot might be a little bit better because students don't have to be on at the same time. And Kahoot actually gives them, you know, some feedback. So, or again, in that situation, if you're, say, for instance, not meeting every single day, but meeting some days of the week, those Moodle 2 classes are good because the formative assessment questions are built right in. The students enter their question or they enter their answers and then get immediate feedback, and they can retry it if it's wrong or watch a video to see how to solve the problem. So there's a lot of different ideas. Somebody said their kids like quizzes. I haven't heard of that one before, but that would be another one you could look at. Quizizz.
But yeah, you know, and I think there's a lot out there not telling us exactly how to do this and anything, but this would be a way if you were using some sort of polling in your classroom, be it clickers, or even if you were just using whiteboards and had the students holding up the answers, this is a way to continue something they're familiar with and be able, you know, they've been seeing the slides. So now it's like, we're gonna all answer them. You know, how neat is this that we can get everyone's answer at one time and still debate and discuss it in that regard. So hopefully, you know, try it out. Feel free to email us if you have any questions about how to integrate it, and we'll gladly help you. Share success stories with us. Ronnie says you're using forms like in Google Forms. Yeah, that seems to be a way that a lot of teachers have been using as well. So. Any other questions? We'll make this recording available. And so if you would